this aircraft, there are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-Footers gang? It is your girl Jenna and Jarod here for another exciting episode. And guys, we missed you last week. It was our all-star break. Jarod and I weren't running around these ATL streets.
Heck no. We ain't trying to get COVID out here. Hell no.
Heck no. We're playing it safe here, unlike the league, I guess. No kidding. They're always safe. Or at least they try to be.
I mean, once it ain't messing up the money, you know.
You know what I'm saying? Can't mess with those coins, you know what I'm saying?
No.
But what did you think of All-Star really quick? I know like we're, a week out here, but what were your thoughts about it?
I
Did you think it was good?
It's so interesting because All-Stars we know, and we're very fortunate to do what we do. All-Star is so much better in person than it is on TV, particularly when you work in the business, right? Like, so, I mean, for me, as it being at home, I just watched a couple of like the pregame stuff, a little bit of that, but the game itself, I was like, meh. You know, I wasn't really into it, and I needed a nice little break, a little NBA break, just because, it's crazy. It's interesting, right? Covering the league this way via Zoom, I'm zooming in on a lot more teams and their post-game and their pre-game, so it's like a lot going on. So it's kind of nice, actually, to have a week off. And then, we're back into it now. But All-Star is definitely more fun when you're there. Looking forward to being there in person next year.
Yeah, I mean, same here. And they announced it, too. It is in Cleveland.
Oh. Well.
We going to Cleveland. I texted Gabby. I go, Gab, we going to Cleveland? And she goes, Jen, as long as you're not missing our flights for us, we're going to Cleveland.
I mean, Cleveland, yeah, Cleveland. That's, yeah.
Once a hot commodity, now
we'll just... Listen, shouts to the good people of Cleveland, and we'll leave it there.
Oh, you kill me. All right, let's get down to business here. Tiesto, let's get down. Okay.
Wow.
But
Tiesto, where are we?
It's feeling a little vibe there.
You're like get the vibe to go back to the club. You're like, damn, it's been a while. I mean,
it's been a while since your girl's been in the club. All right, I think if I put a pair of heels on for like over 10 minutes, I might die.
The club.
Literally, or my feet just might go numb. But let's talk trades, guys, because can you believe it? We are already almost at the NBA trade deadline. It is March 25th. We are gearing up because there's a lot of people on the market, okay? We're going to go through them. Jarod's probably going to slander a few people, and then, we'll wrap it.
Nah, no slander, no slander.
No, it's all fun. It's all fun and games here, except for, when you're an extreme dumpster fire, which we can eventually get to. No problem there. But let's open things up with, one of the newest headlines we're seeing out there, PJ Tucker parting ways mutually with the Rockets, and they're trying to figure out a destination. Where would PJ Tucker fit best?
Well, so here's what's interesting, right? The question you have to ask yourself, if you're a contending team, how much do you bet or believe that PJ has left in him, right? Because he's shooting like, 31% from three this year. Not looking so great.
Player, though?
Not looking so great without James Harden there, right? Things ain't looking in Houston. Whew, what about dumpster fire? Disaster over there. Literally on fire. PJ, he's a 3-and-D guy, right? That's sort of his role. Hit those corner threes and really be a lockdown guy and, just really a competitor, right? That's what PJ Tucker is. This guy's going to compete his tail off. The Lakers, of course, that's a team that could work for him. Brooklyn Nets are literally involved in every possible trade discussion or free agency pickup or trade deadline move. Honestly, again, if you're a contending team, you're trying to win a title, that's sort of where you can go. And the question is, if you're the Rockets, what can you reasonably expect back from PJ Tucker, right? I mean, you ain't getting no serious draft picks out here. I mean, let's not get crazy. I mean, you're gonna get some matching salary back, and that's probably it, right? So that's what I would imagine you can get for PJ Tucker. Although some teams might pay more, but I'm looking at the contenders, right? Lakers, Clippers, Nets. I'm trying to think if Philly, maybe because he can space over there, so maybe. And Daryl Morey, the connection, Utah, You know,
What about the Spurs?
well,
No?
see, here's the
After
thing.
LaMarcus Aldridge left?
Well, see, here's the thing about the Spurs. The Spurs, and by the way, playing well with DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker the fourth, Jakob Poeltl. They're actually a good team. They're playing well. They're not a contender, so I mean, they're gonna make the playoffs, but like, I don't know that you get PJ Tucker if you're just a playoff team, right? And it's not. And also, San Antonio's not gonna give up any of those young guys, so Houston wouldn't make that move.
True. PJ and his shoe collection will find a home.
Yes.
Hopefully. But let's move on. Let's talk about another recent guy in the news, Andre Drummond. Cavs, they are mutually parting ways too. So where would this big man fit on a contending team?
Well, so the idea is a buyout for him, right? That's what everybody's talking about. We need a buyout here. We need a buyout. And, you know, Brooklyn, of course, is the name that gets thrown around a lot. Boston needs some size. You know, the thing about Drummond is, though, are we sure he can play smart winning basketball? I mean, you know, Drummond really is out here doing a lot of wacky things sometimes, right? I'm not, he ain't quite JaVale McGee in terms of like bro, what are you doing? But and hey, at least JaVale's won titles, right? He's been on teams that have won chips. But with Andre Drummond, you know, this is a guy who really all you need to do, my guy, is rebound, protect the rim, and clean up and get dunks, and that's it. That's all I need you to do. If he can do that, I mean, yeah, Boston, again, Brooklyn, he would be good in those places. Will he do those things? I don't know.
I could see him though, maybe meshing in Philly, doing something down with those guys.
So he'd be a backup big for Embiid, but again, I mean, that's not really a position of need for Philly. Philly, you need another wing guy, right? Another wing scorer, guy who can shoot and defend, right? I really ain't Andre Drummond. Plus, you already got Dwight as your backup big, so you're okay there. I mean, would he work? I mean, Golden State wouldn't want him because they already got Wiseman. Yeah, Andre Drummond has a limited market. And the other question is, what do you think he could ultimately be long term? Do you think he's like someone who can be a part of your team going forward? Because he's still young. He's what, 27, 28? So he's not. Right? So that's or are you like, nah? What we've seen, this is who he is. And so if that's who he is, then you may not want to be giving up a whole lot or thinking you're going to build anything around him.
Dang. Always had a soft spot for him ever since All-Star in LA.
Yeah.
Hit up one of the after parties and he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy. That's it. A good dancer too. Always
Nice.
So at least he'll be fun. He had to get out of Ohio though, hence like where's the party scene there? Kidding, but still. Let's
slandering
talk
the people in Ohio.
Magic here. Aaron Gordon, okay. Things have been quiet with him too, but we know the talent in Aaron Gordon. And do we hear that the Warriors are possibly targeting him?
So it could be, right? So here's the thing about Aaron Gordon. Like, first of all, Orlando, we know, we'll get to them, I guess, at some point. Dumpster fire. I mean, the injuries were bad this year, and they're not going anywhere, right? So, and they have young guys, right? Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, right? Like they are heading in a different direction, and I don't know that Aaron Gordon fits necessarily with what they have. Markelle Fultz as well. I don't know what else they have. What if he fits with them down there? Now they've kind of forced him to play the 3. He's really more of a 4. Okay, would he work on a team like the Warriors as a stretch 4? You know, playing with Curry and Draymond and those guys. It's like, look, all we need you to do, my guy, hit open shots and defend and rebound. And guess what? Aaron Gordon can do that, right? Like, can you move the basketball? Like, yeah, I mean, he ends up on a team like Golden State. I mean, I could help them do some things. Now, what would you have to give up to get him, right? If you're Orlando, I ain't gonna let him walk just for nothing, right? I mean, so it's, you know, we want some things. Golden State isn't going to give up that Minnesota pick, right? So it's, you know, it's tough, but that's a team he could do well in. I think Aaron Gordon on a team where he is not the guy, where he is like, you know, you're number 3, you're number 4, like, yes, that's huge. So again, you're looking at what? A contending team, right? Like, what team is like, ooh, we put Aaron Gordon here, this might be nice. But again, what do those contending teams have to give up? What would a Denver have to give up, right? What would a Boston have? What would a Utah have to give up, right? And, you know, the fits there are kind of not great. They're okay, right? But it's like, it's fit, and then what pieces do I have? But he's a name that, you know, and I've talked to people around the league that I've been hearing like, look, this could be the time. So it'll be interesting to see. He's a name I'm definitely keeping my eye on and saying, okay, what's going on with Aaron Gordon?
right? I think the right fit can do him so well
For sure.
because we forget about Aaron Gordon because I mean, what are the Magic doing? Yikes. Let's talk about LaMarcus Aldridge. Brought him up before, parted ways with the Spurs, likely to be bought out then traded. So what's the deal here?
Well, again, he, like PJ Tucker, although PJ Tucker at least you feel a little bit more confident, your question you have to ask yourself is, what does he have left in the tank? I mean, he hasn't been moving so well. Like, things haven't been looking great for LMA.
5 years old.
I mean, right. He's on the older side, right? He's going to have to be, and also, what role does he think he has to play in the league? Is he okay being an off the bench backup big? Because that's kind of where he is right now.
Right.
And does he want to like say, okay, I'll come off the bench and be a backup big for a contending team? Is he at that stage of his career where he understands that? That's the question. And I think, look, the Spurs are going to do their best to try to figure out what works for them, but also can they get LaMarcus somewhere, so he's not like, languishing away somewhere, wasting. Again, does he fit in Boston? Maybe. Miami? Those are places where, they could use some size potentially. But again, what is his role there, right? Now in Boston, you already have Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice. It's like, but the Tristan Thompson experiment hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to. Will he get rejuvenated, find the fountain of youth? Time will tell.
I love that. Well, I mean, hey, that's big names that are on the move. We also need to mention real quick as well here, George Hill, Trevor Ariza. What do we see for the point guard in George Hill here? So
again, it's really like, what team could use a backup point, right? Coming off the bench to kind of steady the offense. A place like Philly is interesting, right, for him. Just because, Philly needs somebody who can help them get into their offense a little bit. Would he work in LA with the Clippers, right? The Clippers, point guard is an area of need for them. And who can they get to sort of get them into their offense, in and out, and run the team? That way, Paul George and Kawhi can do what they do, right? That's what you have to look at. And then, can he be steady and knock down open shots? And that's something that George Hill can do.
And then tell me about Trevor Ariza. Again, we don't need to chat about him
too
long because where's Trevor Ariza?
He's another one, right? Like, can he hit some shots off the bench, give you 10 minutes a night? Like, right? That's ultimately it, right? Can he move and guard enough to? Because these are players on the margins, right? So really, again, unless you were a team that is competing for a championship this season, and you already have your super duper stars and your entrenched role players who get the bulk of the minutes. These dudes are dudes on the fringe who can just give you a little extra, okay, I got to spell my guy for 5. He can give me 5 good minutes and be a plus and not a negative on the floor. Or even just be neutral, maintain, right? These are what you're hoping for guys like that.
And the thing is, too, I feel like at one point, and again, not recently, but I feel like at one point we were talking so in depth and highly of Trevor Ariza, and then it just
it's just time, right? I mean, this league is, Father Time is undefeated is the saying we like to use, right? And we just don't know, like we just don't know what these guys have left in the tank right now. Again, maybe some of them they come back and it's like, oh look, they have some gas left in the tank, but these are all players like 35 years and older, right? So how much do they have left is what you're asking. And again, can they just spell you and give you in an important playoff series? Can they knock down a shot and be not a negative on defense? Like, these are the things you're asking for, right? Because when you're competing for a championship, it's about your star players and stealing minutes when they have to rest so you're not getting killed when you don't have them on the floor. Can Ariza, can LaMarcus Aldridge, can George Hill, can players like that help you do that? We'll see.
True, and that's a vital role, too, to step in at that time and really maintain the pace. So, again, time will tell. This is what's so exciting about the trade deadline and things like that. Because, I mean, as you so much taught me on the NBA reporter side, that, like, everybody's got something to say.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you don't really know what's happening.
Well, that's the thing, right? I say it all the time. Like, your sources and people lie like crazy to you at this time of the year. They lie all the time. So you're never like, who are you believing? What's going on? That's just the nature of the business. Yeah, all all I want to say is everyone's, what happens is a trade comes out of nowhere and everybody's like, whoa, we didn't. Yeah, that's because the trades that are going to happen, no one actually talks about them, right? Like, that's the thing. Right. So, now sometimes it's true. Where there's smoke, there is fire. That sometimes is true. But, the idea of like, Mark Cuban, the Mavericks governor, came out and said, we're not trading Kristaps. I mean, that I feel pretty confident in saying that he's not going anywhere. The idea of, I saw a rumor somewhere that Russell Westbrook was going to end up on the Clippers. I was like, no, that's not happening. Like, I don't know what you people are talking about. Like, it's,
I can't. These damn liars, how do they live with this stuff, man? All right, let's get into a few teams and see who should really make moves here. And I know that you have great in-depth analysis of this and, of course, your ear in the league at all times. So I want to hear where you believe these teams should be making moves, not so much as what's happening in the rumor mill.
Okay.
Because I always tell you this, Jarod, if you weren't sitting here with me coddling our 7-foot baby, 7-foot baby,
7-foot baby,
you would be a GM, front office, blah blah blah. So I
love it. Put it out there. I'm going to be your team's next GM. Come on, guys, hire me. I know what's up.
I'm telling you, I'm starting a serious campaign. All right, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, what moves does Dallas need to make to really come over that hump that they so desperately bad need to do?
Well, what's interesting for Dallas is the big thing with them is being healthy, right? Porzingis missed some time, right? So having him and Kleber and Powell and Dwight Powell on the floor, like all those guys playing together, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., like that's necessary. With Luka and KP, you got a hell of a 1-2 punch. I mean, good luck stopping that duo, right? And that's pretty good. So for Dallas, what I'm looking for about them more is being healthy. Maybe they could use some more shooting a little bit, but honestly, I kind of like where they are. I just need them to get healthy and everybody to play more. That's if I'm Dallas. If there's a deal that makes sense that you're not going to get to give up any of your future picks and give up your young talent and get yourself cap strapped. But you can figure out like a 3-and-D wing. Although Finney-Smith, I like Finney-Smith a lot, right? Like, I'm thinking about a Jay Crowder type, even though he won't be available because Phoenix is loving what he's doing over there. Can you get someone like that? Maybe, but otherwise, I like what Dallas is doing. Staying healthy is really what's key for them.
Very, very true. Especially Kristaps there. He's been dealing with that since, oh my God,
forever.
Years. It feels like.
Yeah.
So moving on here, rapid fire. Let's talk about the Pelicans, okay? We always talk about these amazing moving parts that they have in Zion, Zoe, Brandon Ingram. I mean, they're putting up insane box score numbers, but there's something missing. What is it?
The Steven Adams and Zion Williamson front court pairing doesn't seem to be working well. So, can you just play Jackson Hayes and can we move Steven Adams potentially? Because you need more space around Zion, right? That's the other thing. You got Lonzo, who, by the way, shooting it well from 3 this year. And Lonzo's playing well. Is Eric Bledsoe someone you can move? I mean, ain't nobody probably going to want to pick him up, unfortunately. Again, Lonzo probably is your best sort of like piece to move because he's so good. We've heard about JJ Redick being on the move. Look, the thing about New Orleans is the season's been disappointing for them, right? Defensively, they've been terrible. Stan Van Gundy called them out the other day. It's a problem with the collection of players on this team. You thought they'd be fighting for that 8 spot. I mean, look, they're still fighting for a spot in the play-in, but I mean, you look at Memphis, a team we're going to talk about next. Memphis is missing arguably their best player all season in Jaren Jackson Jr., and they've managed to basically be 500. Like, I mean, right, which is essentially about what the Pelicans have been, and they've been relatively healthy. It's like, how do you guys like? It's just bad. I really thought that Stan would help turn that around, and the pieces just seem to be odd fitting. And the Brandon Ingram and Zion thing, there's a little bit of weirdness there. It's just an odd situation. Look, they're in good shape because they have plenty of picks, and they're young, and their cap sheet is pretty friendly. I think it's time to really look at, okay, what pieces fit? Because we know Zion, Jackson Hayes, right? We know certain. I would assume they want to keep Lonzo. I don't know. Brandon, you want to keep Brandon Ingram? You did just sign him to that extension. Those are the pieces that you see that seem to fit. Okay, how do I get the right kind of spacing around them? How do I create the right offensive environment around that crew? And also build in enough defensive habits, which, I thought Stan was going to do, but wasn't able to do this year. So look out for, Redick and players like that, Steven Adams, being on the move, potentially maybe Lonzo. Again, I don't know the Eric, like I don't know who's going to want to make a play for Eric Bledsoe. I mean, a non-shooting point guard is problematic, or so.
Unless you're like Ben Simmons. So.
Right, but Ben Simmons is 6'10". He ain't that, right? Eric Bledsoe ain't that, right? Ben Simmons can do 99 other things really well. So,
Well, what's interesting about Zoe is that earlier, not too long ago, he was available, or there were rumors that he was on his way out in New Orleans. Then he turns around the season and gets significantly, I don't want to say better, but improved. No,
he has. He's gotten. I mean, we already know he can play defense. He's got size, right, and he can shoot the three. And he's not only a willing passer, he's a ball mover. When he doesn't, they got ball movers and ball stoppers, right? Lonzo Ball is not a ball stopper. He's a ball mover. And when you are trying to win games, you need guys who are going to get the ball moving. And coaches love to say the ball has energy. He's one of those guys that does that. I mean, this would be an embarrassment of riches, but he would fit in a place like Brooklyn, right? Where it's knock down a shot, move the ball, play D, you can do those things. Lonzo would be great on a contender. So the question again is, what would you have to give up to get him on a contending team?
Hey, Zoe's probably got that extra motivation because he sees his little bro coming up in the league, breaking
LaMelo killing it on
a daily basis. So that's what that is. If that were my little brother, I'd be like, yo, you need to calm down right now because people are starting to come for me. And now I got all my game, and now you're just creating problems in the family. That's sad. That's what I'd have to say at the dinner table, but whatever. Okay, let's talk about the Warriors. What moves do the Warriors need to make? Because they got just blown out by the Lakers last night. It was embarrassing. Steph Curry said it in the post game. So they obviously need help. What do they need?
We mentioned Aaron Gordon, right? Would he fit on a team like the Warriors? What's happening with the Warriors right now, the way that they play basketball, their system, their style, the ball movement, and what we call in True Hoop the Cuisinart offense.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just a mix-match and a blender of all types of exciting things happening. The players on that team, besides Steph and Draymond, don't know how to do that well. They're not good at that at this current stage. And that's problematic, right? So the question is, again, okay, what can we get and what can we do? Because the question for the Warriors is, they'll make the playoffs, but it's hey, it's essentially a wasted Steph Curry prime season. And part of that is because of the Klay Thompson injury, right? If Klay's healthy, things are looking a lot different. But, that's just how things go sometimes. Andrew Wiggins has been better. He's playing good defense. But him and Kelly Oubre and a lot of the guys off the bench, it's tough. And also, as much as I like Wiseman, and I think he's going to be a really good player, he's young. Rookies need time to make mistakes and grow. And if your goal is we're trying to play championship basketball, it's very rare in this league that you win titles with a large part of your roster being rookies and young, inexperienced players. It's just you don't do that. You need time to understand this league, how it works, how you can win. And, that's what they're going through right now, the growing pains. Andrew Wiggins is doing some stuff, though, right? Playing D, shooting pretty decently from three. Is he someone they might potentially think about moving in? What would they get back? I doubt they move the Minnesota pick unless you're talking about packaging Wiggins and the Minnesota pick and you're getting Bradley Beal or a legit all-NBA player. And Washington has said a million times he's not available. So, and if it ain't Bradley Beal, no one else is on the market or available, right? So even Aaron Gordon, right? That still wouldn't be enough, and I wouldn't give up Wiggins and the Minnesota pick for Aaron Gordon. But what else could you possibly get to make it okay? We're better than that. We can actually make some noise in the playoffs. It'd have to be a lot, and the development of the Warriors players would have to really have a steep learning curve. And it's just in this type of season, I don't think it's possible. So we'll see.
No. Couldn't agree more. We need Klay back. Can't wait for next season for the Dubs. Let's go somewhere else, not too far in Cali, LA. Let's talk about the Clippers. What do the Clippers need to do? Although they obviously have Kawhi and PG-13, among other defensive tears of players, what do they need? I feel like they need a little something. Right?
Yeah, like I talked about, they need a point guard, right? Like, look, Pat Bev is great and Lou Will is great, but Lou Will's actually having a little bit of a regression season, right? He hasn't been playing that well this year as he did the year prior. They need a point guard, right? Who can get them into their offense and allow, as I said before, Paul and Kawhi to do what they do best. A name that would, I mean, I don't know how they got the salaries to work, so it probably wouldn't happen. But I mean, if you got Kyle Lowry on the Clippers, I mean, I'd pick them as the instant title favorite coming out of the West, right? Like
him and Kawhi,
yeah, or already have that from back in Toronto, right? And it's just Kyle. Not only will Kyle get you into your offense as a true point guard, he's going to knock down shots. He's going to play defense, do all those little things that lead to winning basketball. And he's already a champion, already proven he knows what it takes. Like, now, the question is, one, does Toronto want to move on from Kyle? And we'll get to the Raptors later on. And how do you make the salaries work? There's a lot of things going on there. But if I'm the Clippers, I'm looking point guard. That's what I need.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. And you know what? Now I'm stuck on that Kyle Lowry idea. So,
no, well, don't get too excited because I don't think the money works. So, yeah.
You know how I feel about Kyle.
Kyle.
Anyway, let's talk Denver. All right, what do the Nugs need? Because they have strength, obviously, in their dynamic duo that we talk about all the time.
Nikola Jokic and Murray. Yeah.
What else?
So Denver's been playing extremely well of late, and Michael Porter Jr. has solidified himself as that third player, right? When he first came back after the COVID,
100%?
he was a little rocky to start, but he's could have gotten himself back together, and they are now, okay, it's kind of clear who he is and what his role is, and they've been on a nice streak. I feel like there's always something missing, though, right? Like, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Some of it has to do with the consistency of Murray. Like, and the lack thereof, right? Like, he's just not consistent. And you say that all the time, right? Like, when
I get a hot take, right?
He was amazing in the bubble last year. And we said, and remember what I said? I was like, I don't expect him to be bubble Murray all season. That's not what I want.
No.
But I want him to at least be an all-star, and like, he wasn't anywhere near the all-star conversation. Not even close.
No.
And that level of inconsistency is a problem. Like, is it too much to ask for him to average 18 and 6? I mean,
I hope not, as the leader of that team, or so we say.
I mean, right? Like, I just, and shoot a consistent number from out there. That's been my issue with them is the Jamal Murray situation, right? I mean, he's actually, I'm pulling up his stats right now. He's been playing better of late. He's averaging 20 points a game, 4.7 assists. Looking at his shooting splits, 47, 39. 84, decent. All right, he's been decent. He's been turning it on of late. He has made a little bit of a jump. There's something missing there, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the consistency of Michael Porter Jr., right? But again, he's in essence a year 2 player, right? Like, so, and they've said repeatedly like he's not on the trade block. But again, if you can get an established player, do you move Michael Porter Jr.? But who is that established player? We already said Bradley Beal, not available according to the Wizards. So what do you do? I think they're going to roll with what they got. And look, let's be fair to the Nuggets. What they got to the Western Conference Finals last year, right? So I mean,
hey,
we'll see. But the point on Murray remains in terms of the consistency, right? You do want to see that consistency because he does have a lot of those up and down games, right? It's like, oh, you must score 45 one night, and then it's like 12. It's like, no, dude, just give me consistent. That's all.
Yeah. Big facts. We talked about that too. So 7-footers making history once again. So, let's talk about Boston, okay? The C's. It's no secret that they've had extreme growing pains or something going on this season. As GM Danny Ainge said, that they couldn't find their identity. So who can they put in the roster to find that identity?
They need some size. We talked about that earlier. That's one thing that's hurting them. The Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice big man combo hasn't been great. The Time Lord does some interesting things, Robert Williams, and I like him. But do you want to give him all those minutes? Not 100% sure about that. Especially if you're this team and your goal is, look, we're out here trying to potentially go back to a conference finals. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I just don't know. The other thing I would look at is, the Marcus Smart injury really hurt them. And him being out all that time, because he's the identity of that team, right? He's so much that team's heart and soul, and like he inspires other guys the way he's just so gritty out there and gives his body up to do what's necessary to win. So him being out was a problem, and Kemba being hurt was a problem, right? So they, like everybody else, injuries, COVID, and Jason Tatum even said, still dealing with the after effects of COVID coming back, right? So there's just been a lot of things that have been, a problem for this team. In terms of a move, it still is that big man. That's what I'm looking at. And the other thing to look at too, Gordon Hayward being gone, that hurt them. As much as everybody's like, oh, you're making jokes about Gordon Hayward, whatever. That off the bench guy who you can just go to get you a bucket, who knows how to like run and initiate offense and create for himself and other people. Not having that off your bench, that hurts, right? And so they're seeing that this year.
Heck yeah, and speaking of Hayward, he's balling right now. So.
Playing well down in Charlotte.
Heck yeah. All right, let's move on here to, I know these are your favorite teams, Jarod. These are the teams that we're questioning are probably fooling themselves, no matter what they may do. So let's talk about Cleveland, where the 2022 All-Star Game will be held, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to be there.
So I'm going to lump all these three teams together, right? Cleveland, Washington, Sacramento. Like,
right.
All y'all are sellers. Like, get this in. Your house is on fire. Like, just moving up. Look, Cleveland, you got your young guys, right? You're going to be building around Sexland. Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, Larry Nance Jr.'s hurt. But, like, you're doing it with your young guys. GM Kobe Altman's already said, look, we're getting a buyout for Drummond. We're going to figure out where to get him to go. All that, cool. So that means Kevin Love, he's back playing. We got to get him on the move. Where would he fit in, right? Can he space the floor? Now, his contract's big, so who is going to take on that salary? And what are they going to get back in return that's not going to mess up their timing with their young people? That's one thing I'd be looking at in Cleveland. Washington, look, as much as, the Beal Westbrook thing is all great and well and good, y'all ain't doing nothing. Like, okay, you might get into the play-in. You might even go on a little streak here and get to the 8th seed. You're not, okay, great. You're not winning around. You're not beating Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. You're not beating any of those teams. Like, so, what are we talking about here? And then Sacramento, look, we talk about them all the time as far as a dumpster fire. They are what they are. Harrison Barnes is someone who teams are targeting, who could be on the trading block. Buddy Hield potentially also could be on the move because it's looking like De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, right? The young guys. Is Hassan Whiteside someone that could get moved in Sacramento? Rashawn Holmes. Again, guys who can help contending and playoff teams. And then you rebuild around your youth. That's what's going on with those three teams. But if those three teams think they're gonna, part of the problem, Jenna, is this play-in tournament, which I love, by the way. But you move it down to 10 seeds, so it's giving these teams an unrealistic, a false sense of hope. All right, cool. You get into the play-in tournament, but y'all ain't that good anyway. And then really, you're screwing up your draft place, right? Like, I always say, what's the worst place to be in the league? In the middle. You either want to be a contender or you want to stink so you can get draft picks. Because that middle of the road space, not great. Not great. Because you're picking later in the draft, you're out of the lottery. Doesn't help you. And for what? Maybe you get into the playoffs, maybe you don't. And now what? You don't get that extra revenue, now you're picking in the late teens. Nah.
You don't want to be there. That's
nope,
it, kids.
Not at all.
Listen to Jarod, especially when it comes to this topic. You don't want to be there. All right. Guys, it is finally time for America's favorite segment, What's Up With? And we have two targets this week. First being, what's up with the red hot Phoenix Suns? Wow, did I just say?
You sure did. You sure did.
Red hot Phoenix Suns.
Look, Phoenix is awesome, man. Like, we all look. Of course, going to give Chris Paul a ton of credit for what he's doing over there. Shouts to Monty Williams, their head coach. Right. Devin Booker playing like an all-star. They're defending, which is the number one thing. And Chris has just brought that sort of professionalism, and everyone knows where they're supposed to be. They are on point. And right now they're the 2 seed in the Western Conference. It's crazy. 26-12. And they're defending. Not only they're playing good offense and they're defending. I mean, look, they're going to be. It'll be interesting to see what they look like come playoffs, because come playoff time, Chris is the only one that's proven, and Jay Crowder, right? But Bridges, Booker, Ayton, all these guys, they haven't done anything in the playoffs yet, right? They're also young in their careers, but this will be good for them to kind of get into the playoffs and see, okay, when those vets tell you, nah, man, it's different in the playoffs. Well, now you're going to see for yourself what it's like, and we'll get to see sort of how they react. Does Phoenix make a move? What can they get? I think they'd love to have another wing guy, but again, everyone wants a wing. Wings don't grow on trees, unfortunately,
Center,
right?
though?
No, I like Aaron Gordon.
Yeah?
What would Aaron Gordon do potentially in Phoenix, right? Potentially, who knows, right? Who knows? So anyway, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Phoenix. Kudos to them, playing awesome on both ends of the floor. Kudos, shouts to what's going on down in Phoenix.
Dang, you gotta love it. I just want to be a fly on the wall to watch Chris Paul in practice and see how these kids, I say kids because they are kids.
He's definitely yelling at them for sure.
Every word.
They're definitely getting yelled at.
Oh yeah, he's definitely telling them that they're trash. Yeah. Just because we don't got a back door like the Clippers organization here, don't mean I ain't gonna take y'all somewhere. Had to do it. All right. Last but not least, what is up with the Toronto Raptors? Give it to me, Jarod. What is happening with them?
Loses 4 in a row, I think 5 in a row. It's tough for Toronto. It's been a rough year for them. They had to relocate to Tampa, right? Like, I mean, it's been a weird year for everybody, but really weird for them. They got to play in a whole different city. So it's like one long extended road trip for them. Again, I asked about Kyle Lowry. They've said that Kyle doesn't want to leave, but that deal is expiring, right? And so what could they potentially get back? Again, where they sit right now, they're not going to make any noise. Now, again, everybody is bunched up. That's the other thing, too, about this, Jenna, especially in the East. Between Toronto's 10 games back of the first of number 1 seed, which they're not going to get, but they're only 2 games back of the 8 seed, right? They're only 2.5 games back of the 7 seed. Right? I mean, they're 3.5 back of the 6 seed. So if they go on a 6-7 game winning streak, they could be right back in the thick of things. But in the thick of things for what? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. You're not going to win a title this year, and you're dealing with guys coming out of protocol, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. Do you potentially make a move? Get some young, because next year when everybody's back and healthy, you're a good team with Pascal, OG, Fred, Chris Boucher. Do you trade Norm Powell and see if you can get back from him? Norm Powell's been playing well this year. Again, he's a guy, super sub off the bench, that a contender would love to have. What can a contender give you? Yeah. What can a contender give you for Norm Powell? What can you get for Kyle Lowry, right? So these are things you have to consider. If you do, because again, none of us think Toronto's going to be a championship contender, but are they like, no, we need our guys back and we can get ourselves back up into that 5th seed range? And okay, if you're a 5th seed, you're in the playoffs, you're not in the play-in, maybe you make some noise, but I don't know, it's tough. This is why they pay Masai Ujiri the big bucks to make those decisions.
Very true. Last question here too, because there obviously were rumblings of a potential move with Tristan Thompson to Toronto.
Yeah, because Toronto's also seeing the need size, right? So they're figuring, okay, do we get? But what if Tristan goes to Toronto? What is Toronto giving back to Boston, right? And are you helping a division rival? They're in the same division, right? Do you a team that you're trying to chase down, right? To get in there, right? Do you help them? These are the questions you ask. It's fascinating, and I think this year particularly with COVID makes it all more interesting. Right, with what everybody's dealing with, and with the play-in tournament, has it convinced teams that they're closer than they think, even though in reality, you ain't really that close, right? Like, are teams able to really sit and figure out and be honest with themselves? All right, yeah, we could be a play-in team, but what's that really going to do for us, right? Like, that's the question you have to ask yourself.
I mean, all in all, what are the perks of the play-in tournament? I get it, we have to switch it up, but like, you said you liked it.
I do.
People that don't.
It's good because it sort of gives us like single elimination, like or you play 2 games and it's like, oh man, like a team could like really get hot and go on a roll late in the season and fight their way in. That gives it the excitement, no doubt about it. But again, if you're a team that's building and you need to continue to get young draft talent and right, getting into the playoffs, that ultimately hurts your draft place, right? Like what are those things going to do to you as an organization, right? And again, that's why it's important. What is your mission and vision as an organization? Who are we and what are we doing? What are our long-term goals? Who are we building around? Like all these different things, right? You're balancing that, of course, with the immediacy of having to win every day. But winning, and you also want to see development. Are my players developing? Are we getting better? Yes, and some would argue getting into the playoffs is going to help in that development, and it sure would, right? But you know what? Like a team like, for instance, last year, if the Grizzlies had fought their way into the play-in, that would have been helpful for them, right? Because you got two young stars in Triple J and John Morant. Yeah, they would have got waxed by the Lakers, no doubt, but it would have been good because you see these are the two franchise cornerstones that we can build around. Let's give them that experience. But you're these kind of funny, weird, middling teams. It's like, okay, but what are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
what are we gonna do here?
Exactly. And Toronto doesn't need like playoff experience. They've already won a championship. Those guys have that experience, right?
Yeah.
So what's getting your tail kicked in the first round going to do, really, ultimately? So it's all interesting.
Very interesting, but y'all know we're going to keep an eye on it for you because we are days away from the NBA trade deadline, so guys, stick with us. We will keep you posted, and as usual, we're back weekly. None of this break-ish. We're good. We're back, baby. Tell them where to find us.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We are on Twitter at 7footerspod, on Instagram at 7footerspodcast, at JS Hector, at Gentleman Selly, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what's a man gonna do? Chevy told me come